The Phantom, I had a couple of plans for that book. The first one was to portray Harry as the father. What kind of father figure he would be. In the previous book, we had met Harry as the son, visiting his father on his deathbed. In this, Harry has to try to save his own son, or Rakel's son, who has been accused of a murder, which he to a certain degree admits, and the evidence are overwhelming. So it's a really hard case, and it's personal. It's very personal, and I guess that has been the journey that we've been through with Harry during this series, is that things are getting more and more personal. I also wanted to portray Oslo, the dark side of Oslo. I have done that in previous books also, but I think that this time we're going even deeper down into the cellar of Oslo, investigating the drug scene in Oslo. Quite detailed description, which is half built on facts and half is fiction, of course. But I've never done so detailed and thorough research ever for any of my books. Oslo, Harry, and Harry as a father, that was sort of the the main themes of this book. But again, the main goal is always to write something that's as suspenseful and entertaining as it can be. I think that maybe the most to me important moments happened during the research, when I was more or less roaming the streets of downtown Oslo, meeting people. I was working in the dope areas and in the prostitution areas. I did do some research also for a previous book, Devil's Star, which came in handy for this book. But I think that this time I to a certain extent even put my personal integrity to a test. And I've never gone so far doing research for a book ever. So I think that without going too much in detail, I think that was to me the most important parts of the book. And I think it also reflects on the story, that this is probably the darkest, grimmest book in the Hárry Hole series so far. Technically, I'm getting better as a writer. And this time I've tried to combine heart and brain, using storytelling technique where I give myself certain restrictions when it comes to how many points of views I can use in a story, which persons are to tell the story, and how you do it. That you sort of say that, okay, we have 5 people that are going to tell the story, and just restrict myself to those points of view. And I also have a timeline here, which is going from somewhere in the past, and just describing a person who is dying, like the last minutes, where he's still alive and can tell his story. And we know from the start that he is going to end up dead, but we also know that he's probably going to reveal to us what actually happened before he died. So he is sort of telling his life story during those last few minutes. And at the same time, we have the present, where Harry is investigating this case where a young man has been killed, seemingly by his own son. And we're not sure whether Harry is going to find out what happened, because the contract with the reader is always that the reader is going to find out what happened. But we already know that, because we have the point of view of the dying young man, a drug dealer, and also a drug addict. His name is Gustav Hansen, and he's sort of both a protagonist and an antagonist in this story. He's really son of a bitch, and but we get to see life through his eyes, so that automatically in a way makes him a protagonist. And I think I really like that aspect of this book, that we not only have Harry's point of view and him as a protagonist, but also this young guy who is, it's really hard to root for him because he has done some really bad things, but still I tell his story in a first-person point of view, and that is almost impossible to defend yourself against rooting for him at some level. When I do research for my books, I almost always have a plan for what I want. I'm not doing research and then coming up with a story based on the research. It's always story first. Story has always the highest priority. So I have a defined goal for my research, and sometimes I will even write the chapter without having done research, and then interviewing persons who knows this area, and ask them whether what I've written, whether I can get away with it, because that is the way I want the story to go. And sometimes they have to, we have to correct details, and if my instincts have been really wrong, I have to delete the whole chapter and rewrite it. I think if I got the chance to write this book again, I can't think of anything that I wanted to change. But then again, it's always like that with my books. I think that when I read it at the end, I think that's the way the book should be. I mean, a sentence here or a sentence there, perhaps, if I read it, a couple of years later. But this book is a bit special because it was written before what happened at Utøya at the 22nd of July. And there is 3 places where Harry comes back to Oslo. He comes back to Oslo. He hasn't been there for 3 years. So he's arriving after 3 years in Hong Kong, and he walks the streets of downtown Oslo and looking at his city. And this is, in time, it's placed at in September 2011. It even says so in the book. It is definitely just after the 22nd of July, same year. And he's saying, everything is new, nothing has changed. And in a couple of months after the event, I thought that is horrible, to say that, because that is definitely not true. Everything has changed. I wrote the storyline for Harry just prior to writing The Redbreast. May have been after The Redbreast, but at some point in time around the release of The Redbreast, I knew it was going to be a long series, and I knew I had to write a storyline for the whole life of Harry, and that's what I've done. So after that, I more or less followed the plan. I didn't plan in detail every book and what was going to happen in every book, but I knew more or less what was going to happen to Harry, and I've stuck to that plan. And what I can tell you, as I've said before, is that Harry is not going to have eternal life. And when he's gone, I can give one promise, and that is that he's not going to resurrect.